I'm in the midst now of getting the baseboard cut and fitted for the upper deck. I've got most of it cut now and in place, but none of it actually fastened down because I've still got a few bits to do underneath where the baseboard will go. But it's really starting to take effect and give me an idea of how it's going to be, and it's really changing how a lot of it looks. If I come down here, I think it's good timing. There's now, I mean, none of this really is going to be visible from the middle anymore. And I'm kind of on my knees a bit and shaking, but it gives an idea of just how different the whole thing starts to look with another deck on top. Up on my feet then, where hopefully it'll be a bit more stable. This is the other end. The idea, of course, is the trains come up that incline, and then that's where the upper deck and the lower deck join. Like I said, vast majority of some kind of baseboards in place anyway. It needs a bit of tweaking here and there, but it sort of joins up and comes along here. Excuse the truss. And it has kind of, this is the only gap now, and it's looking good because on a kind of a bridge between the two bits, I'm still looking pretty level. So I'm happy with the legs I've cut and everything like that. It's just a case, I think this last little gap here that's going to be filled, I think I'm going to wait until I've fastened everything down, because it's going to need to be a pretty precise cut to get in that gap. So in fastening stuff down, it's all going to get a little bit moved, so I'll wait to fill that gap till everything's firmly in place. This bit, quite interestingly, is really the only part of the lower deck that will be exposed when everything's in place. So the plan is to have a couple of tunnel portals, one over there and one down here, and there'll be kind of hopefully a little bit of interaction because there'll be rails and trains running along here as well. So it just gives an interesting little point, and obviously walls along here as well, some kind of covering so that it's not all open. I still haven't fully decided on where to put this tunnel portal here. This is actually a miscut. I somehow got my measurements wrong when I was cutting it. It should have come out to here. I think I cut it square instead of long. It should have come out to about here. But actually, in the end, I kind of thought that might be quite good, because I've sort of got an idea there's going to be a station up here. That's all going to be stationed. Pretty much this whole side's going to be dedicated to platforms and stuff. And I've kind of got an idea what I'm going to do in this little bit down here. And I just thought it might be, when I put this on, and I knew it was a mistake as soon as I put it on, I was going to go and re-cut it again. But I actually thought it might be quite interesting, because there'll probably be some kind of wall here. So just a little bit of train flashing past here with a little bit of fence or something might make it more interesting than it all being covered up. This bit down here is still very much under construction, but the general idea is I'll put another bit of baseboard along the bottom here and probably cover that bit off, and it'll give me opportunity to do something scenic down here, whether it's a little street with the trains running above it, I don't know yet, but just the difference in height kind of came naturally, because there's plenty enough space up at the top for, there'll need to be some crossovers and things going on there, but I thought, yeah, just something lower down. It just gives me a bit of space to, if I ever learn how to do scenic stuff, to do something scenic down here. The trains again will be pretty much invisible, and they were always meant to be invisible. The reason why I ended up running them down the very back at the other side of that truss was because there's going to be so much point work up here getting the lines ready for the station, which is just round the corner that way. So with the motors hanging down, there really wasn't going to be enough room to run trains as well. Looking at the height, the trains are running very conveniently and turning up just when I need to, which I'm grateful for, but there's not enough room to get a motor, not with those Merg mounts anyway. I think there are some other mounts I've tried out that probably would fit and allow trains underneath, but I'm not overly keen on using them. So the idea was just to run them down the back, because they were going to be invisible anyway. So just run them down the back, and they'll be pretty much out of view once some kind of wall comes down here. The next job really is to get all the feet fastened down onto the trusses and the baseboard then fastened down onto the legs. There's a couple of jobs I need to do before that. I need to pull this board up and probably those two as well and get some more signals. I'll describe, I'll make a little video of the signals I bought to go under there, because they don't need to be scenic or anything, so they're very simple signals that will go under there. I think it would be a very good idea to ballast down here and just go underneath there a bit, so pull these boards up while I still can and get some ballast down there, because this will kind of form part of all the year's work I've done so far. This will be the only part that actually sort of forms part of the scenic layout. It's a very simple construction underneath here, just 3 legs going across, standing on the truss, and the same repeated all the way down. It's not fastened down yet, and all of the plywood that I buy tends to be a bit warped, so I'm not worried about the odd bit not touching. That will work itself out once it's all fastened down. I've had the spirit level across it all when it's pressed down, and it does come out level. I'm hand sawing all of the legs that are going underneath the baseboards, and I started off just by measuring each one, but it turned out to be a little bit inaccurate, so I ended up making this little template that I can clamp the wood that I'm cutting to at least give me a guide when I'm cutting. So then it's just a case of clamping the piece of wood that I want to cut to the template. There are 2 levels to it in case it's a leg that's going to stand on the timber or a leg that's going to stand on the baseboard, and then at least that gives me a guide to saw my way through the wood. I'm not entirely sure if this yard area here will be scenic. It might just be, I don't know if it's worth spreading a load of ballast. It'll be basically 3 boards worth of ballast that would need to go down here. I'm not entirely sure whether it's worth it, but if I do end up making it scenic and want to put some kind of tunnel portal here, I'm going to have to extend the baseboard, bring another panel and kind of come down to cover this rectangle here, just because of that line there that sort of goes on a diagonal, and it's right where the end of a tunnel portal would be. That was kind of unavoidable. I knew it was going to happen when I laid the track, but it was kind of unavoidable with the space I had. So I'd really need to extend the baseboard out, run it down that square, and then there's a more presentable, I guess, more easier to work with end point to the baseboard that I could put some kind of decorative tunnel portal on. But it is really quite a strange experience, a really big difference with all these boards on. It's taken a bit of getting used to, in that I hardly see the trains. I can hear them running around me. I can see the class 43 that's just gone down there. That kind of comes out in the open when it's running around here. But the clockwise train, I don't see at all, apart from just kind of down in that little corner there, because it runs under the baseboard to the left. And at eye level, as this kind of demonstrates, you really can't see, which I sort of expected, but it's still strange to experience. You can't see over the other side of the baseboard. What I think might work quite well here, and I'm calculating, it doesn't look like it, but there is enough space because the foil kind of pushes up because it's droopy, is to put some baseboard right at the back, and there'll be quite a big gap, obviously, because there's the 3 tracks running down the back of there. So, but I think that'll work quite well, not having the back seam right up to the baseboard, but set back a little bit, and some kind of fencing or whatever to fence this off, maybe like an industrial back seam back there. Again, that's all stuff I need to learn. It's alright having these ideas, I actually need to be able to put them into practice, but I think I've measured up, and I think they will comfortably fit there. And maybe then some battens up here and a bit more plywood just for a bit of sky or something, if I don't feel I do have quite enough space there. And on the subject of not being able to do scenery, I still think these back corners will be a good place to start. Obviously a little bit of practice, but then if this was, say, an over, because it's just the station's just down there, if I kind of do this as an overflow car park, I live, my nearest major station's York, so I'm kind of influenced by what I experience. I don't really know much about railways, so my experience of travelling to York Station and that kind of thing will probably influence a lot of this. But I got some kind of overflow car park there, maybe a little bit of grass behind it, and a little grass embankment coming down there, which will disguise some of the dodgy jigsaw cutting on that curve. So grass and mud embankment just coming down slightly from there, and a fence probably at the bottom because I haven't left enough space for it at the top. And then just a great big load of tarmac down there, and car parking spaces would be good practice for me. Fairly straightforward, but also if I get it right, then it's kind of a good backdrop to what might be happening up on the top here, just sat in the background again with back seams all around the top. And if I get it completely wrong, I can just put some back seams across here and hide it out of the way. And with the experience of having implemented blocks on the lower deck, I kind of got a little bit of experience behind me now, so I'm planning for blocks. There's going to need to be, as the trains come up here, this line that they feed onto, there are going to be 2 more lines, so there will effectively be 3 lines running around the upper deck. The top one is kind of an access line, that'll get you from down on the bottom through to the station, and the next 2 are just the up and down lines that will run around in a loop. But without kind of going, I've given this way more thought than I would ever try and explain in the video, but the inclines are obviously one way. They're one line, but they're bi-directional. Something could be coming up, going down. So if there's an anti-clockwise train at the top waiting to go down, and there's a clockwise train coming up, or the other way around, whichever way I did it, I'm going to need a passing loop from where the first interchange is that can get you, crossover is, that can get you from this line to the inside line, which will probably be about there. The outside line is going to have to be long enough before the next set of points to accommodate the longest train, because a train that's going to either come up or down the incline has to book the entire incline. It has to have the entire thing allocated before it embarks on the one-wayness of it, because if something books, say there's a block break there, if one train going in this direction gets allocated something up to there, and something coming in the other direction is allocated up to there, then they're just going to get locked, and they're not going to be able to do anything. So a train's going to it's going to have blocked the entire incline all the way around from behind me, right the way up to the top, and up to where the crossover is here. So if I can have a passing loop going from there right the way around to about where there are points here, which is there, then a train can sit and wait for something to come up. Whatever comes up can go off down on a junction here onto the main lines, and when it's cleared, this train can then head off down there. But without a passing loop long enough for the longest train, I won't be able to do that, and trains will end up, in order so I don't get deadlocked, trains will end up booking half of this lap as well before they get to the station, before they can actually start moving again. Quite a while ago now, I moved the monitor. There used to be a monitor sort of down there somewhere, stood on the baseboard, and I'd always had this 2-arm monitor stand. I just really struggled as to where to put it, and this isn't perfect, but it's about the best compromise. I did put a board up there, but what I discovered after I'd put the board up and after I'd actually mounted the mount on it was, because it was at an angle, the hydraulic arms wouldn't support the monitors because gravity was pulling them down. So that was a big fail. So I, in the end, just put 3 runs of timber across here, long enough to put the stand on, and then attach the stand to that and these monitors. And although from a distance it looks like the view is obscured by these trusses, actual rafters, whatever they are, once you get close enough to be able to see, you can kind of see the screens anyway, and it's not really obscured. I also very quickly realised that although I've got this wireless keyboard, I was just holding it, and I was just kind of holding it in one hand and typing with the other, because if it was down there it was kind of too low to be, I ended up getting a bad neck looking down there and up there, or if I was doing any major work sort of sat using that, then I definitely got a bad neck looking up there. So I just screwed this little bit of ply to the bottom of the timber, and this really is the perfect height to be stood looking at the screens and working on the keyboard at the same time. I've even got a bit of spare space for all the control tablets as well. Before I start fastening all those baseboards down, there's a few jobs I still need to do underneath, and the first one is to finish off the signals. The signals that need to go in now, apart from one, are really under the baseboard, and because of that, under the upper baseboard, I can sort of play about a bit with them. So I've bought these even cheaper. I think these are about £5 for 10 of these little signal things. So you just get all the resistors and all the LEDs you need to build the signals yourself. You get these little, probably 3D printed signal LED holder things, a few of the LEDs, and the idea is you just stick the LEDs in yourself and wire them up. And what that gives me, of course, is the opportunity to wire them the way around that I want. And one of the earlier videos I did, I showed kind of how they, with a common anode, it needed another board really to make it work. But here all I've done is stuck the LEDs in the holder and then wired, if I just get my fingers out of the way so it's a bit lighter, wired one of the legs of a 220 ohm resistor, soldered it across the 3 cathode legs cut down of the LEDs, and then the rest of the resistors just in here, and it becomes a common cathode cable, and that leaves the other side, which is just 3 wires connected to the anodes, and they go off to they can plug, in this case, directly into the shift register, which saves me building those boards. And then just to finish them off, once they're done, I put a little bit of tape. I wanted black tape, but I couldn't find any, so I put blue across these just to get them finished. And then a big, thick heat shrink tube, which will go right up and kind of cover them up like that. And at the other end, just terminated the wires with DuPont sockets so that they're easy to work with under the baseboard. And it's not exactly pretty, but it's under the baseboard. It's not scenic in any way under there, so they'll only ever really be visible when I send a camera around on the train, so they'll do as an indicative signal light. Taking my first board up then in order to work out where the next signal is going, and it's going to go here, the end of the block. So this is a new block here. I think there are insulating joiners either there or there, somewhere around there anyway. So it seems to me that those new signals that I've built, I'm going to attach to this wooden panel here on the other side, obviously to this wooden leg here, so that trains approaching, it's then protecting this block and it's visible for all of the block down there. I think this strut will be easy to pull out. It's only really screwed down by those 2 screws there. So I'm going to remove it, pull it out. I'm going to put a little ledge on the front of it, stick the signal to it, and probably drill a hole all the way through to pull that trunking out and send it down there so that I can connect it underneath the baseboard. So I've done a bit of very basic work just to get the thing in. I drilled a big hole, elongated it a bit as well so that the lengthways thing would fit in. And then it just goes, sort of fits pretty flush now to the block. And I'm then going to get, I think just with a bit of glue, because it doesn't really matter, just a tiny little offcut from some ply, and for stability kind of get it glued to the leg and to the bottom of the signal like that, just so that it'll stay where it's supposed to be. And this wooden leg, it's under there anyway. It's not particularly pretty, but it's all, most of this stuff's there already, so I don't really care that it's just a signal sticking out of a piece of wood. Looking good here. Then I don't know if the camera's picking them up, but the test LEDs are flashing. I've just got that test script running again on the Arduino, just so I know that all the LEDs are working. Now it's time to get them mapped into JMRI. And there are a couple more of the ones that are now hidden under baseboard, and I think the darker it gets under there, the less noticeable it's going to be that it's just a bit of 3D printed plastic and a few LEDs stuck to a lump of wood. I'd like to complete the set with this one. This is the last signal to go in of the 12, but I really haven't left myself much room down there to put something in. I think it might just go with a little bit of wiggling and maybe extending the hole that it's currently in, because it's not quite central and it won't stand up anyway. But I think I might just get that one in too. So all that's left now then really, I think, is to start fastening the struts and fastening the baseboard down. I'm going to start over here with the baseboard that's running down this side of the layout, just because it does feel parallel. I don't know if I can quite catch it on the camera, but I feel like it's running as parallel to the tracks that run down here as it can be. So I think it's a good place to start. When I buy the baseboard, I'm lucky that I live near a B&Q that does the machine cutting, and I need to get it cut anyway because it never fit in the car if I bought it as a whole board. What I tried to do in measuring was to measure or get each board cut to a width where they would meet over somewhere where I could put a big thick lump of wood so that I'd be able to level them up more easily, and that's kind of visible down there. I couldn't get it any further forward than that, but yeah, they were cut so that they would be able to meet over a bit of lower deck baseboard where I could put a big strut down. I'm pretty confident that this side is starting to get ready to fasten down as well. This has gone back on over the signals now, and I've got nice straight alignment there, and then it goes off into the couple of baseboards that are over there. I don't know about trimming the end of those two yet at the far end to match up to the board that's going across. Sometimes it's interesting to have a little bit of difference in alignment. The world isn't really straight. And then this board goes nice and parallel off that. It has gone back. It's just visible there that it hasn't quite sat properly on top of the board that it meets there, but I'm happy with, I think I'm happy pretty much with the big boards at the other side as well. They go off into those station boards there, so once it's all fastened down, I'll leave that bit right in the middle of the camera there till last, because it's only small, and if I need to take it down and trim a little bit off it to meet up with the boards coming this way, that's no big deal. So I think that's it then. It's time to start fastening all of this down. This is definitely the first bit that's going to get fastened down here, because it's, like I said before, it's straight and it's parallel running all the way down there, so it's a good place to start. I've got more of these brackets. They're just kind of vertical brackets, so they'll fasten the legs down as best as I can underneath there, and then it's just going to be a case of drilling in. I'm going to take my time with this just because I'm sick to death of soldering and cabling and all that stuff I've been doing the last few months, so I think I'm going to enjoy this for a bit of a change. So I'm really going to, with it being scenic as well, I'm going to really take my time and try and get it as neat as I can.